Rainfall in the central and southern plains and some heavy rain that could be belting places like Dallas a little bit later on this evening and also through tomorrow. But first, let's take a look at our tropical update. And taking a look at the tropical Atlantic right now, the entire basin from the Gulf of Mexico on eastward, there is absolutely nothing to worry about. Take a look at the lack of convection, or basically a lot of blue skies over the Gulf Coast right now on much of the Gulf of Mexico. Nothing is going to be forming here. And with some strong westerlies again over the mid and also the eastern parts of the Atlantic Ocean, we don't see anything organizing here at all. And off to the north, of course, you can see that big area of low pressure, which is now spinning around Nova Scotia and causing the real breezy conditions to last for several more days in the northeast. But our main concern during the last several days, of course, what was going to be happening with Mitch. Of course, a very intense hurricane several days back, the early part of the week, with winds gusting up to and over 200 miles per hour. Well, Mitch right now is over Honduras as of yet, believe it or not, and still moving west-southwestward, not making that west-northwesterly turn at all, so it's not being picked up by that big trough of pressure organizing now over the western United States. And there is some indication that if it continues moving in the west-southwesterly direction, it could reemerge over the eastern parts of the Pacific Ocean on the other side of Central America. Probably would be renamed. It could actually become a tropical storm again, and maybe even something a little bit healthier than that as it moves on towards the west. But right now, it seems like it's still over Honduras, producing a lot of heavy rainfall, and that's going to be the big story there. Center circulation as of 3 o'clock this morning, Central Standard Time, 14.2 degrees north, 87.9 degrees west. Still over Honduras. It's on the land at the present hour and being ripped apart by the high terrain, the high mountainous terrain of Honduras and much of the Central American countries. Top sustained winds 40 miles per hour, still barely hanging on as a tropical storm. We thought yesterday at this time we could be looking at maybe a depression by now, but still 40 mile per hour winds. And it's held its own, still a tropical storm, west-southwesterly bound at 7 miles per hour, and the pressure all the way up to 1,000 millibars. Since at one time was down to 905 or 906 millibars, it has really weakened considerably during this past week. We still have tropical storm warnings in effect for the entire eastern side of the Yucatan, getting all the way down to the entire coast of Honduras. But the big factor here is going to be the very heavy rainfall. This is one vantage point. We can look at the infrared satellite shot showing a lot of the bright white. But once you see the color enhancement, what we do here is show you the taller, colder cloud tops where the very heaviest of the rainfall is likely to be fallen. And you can see once again, it's covering much of Honduras. And it must be just a tremendous situation down in through here. A lot of flooding has been going on. We told you yesterday it looked like for Honduras, the entire banana crop has been destroyed. And it looks like with this moving very slowly, catastrophic flooding will continue now as you look at the next 24 hours, because this thing will still be moving very slowly. And if it does move off into the Pacific Ocean and then begins to just mill around here for a while, even more heavy rainfall for Central America. Let's come back to the States and show you what's going on. Our current weather map, low pressure developing right around just east of El Paso, Texas. Another strong storm right around Nova Scotia is causing the windy weather for you folks around New England, Boston, Providence, New York City, and Philadelphia. It will be a breezy day today. But the worst of the weather by far is not going to be in the southeast. You've been looking at delightful weather here. A record-tying high again yesterday in Atlanta, Georgia, and a few other spots in the southeast. But look at the moisture now beginning to pool up over the southwest, and thunderstorms producing very heavy rainfall now in parts of New Mexico, where flood warnings are out for several counties. You can check those out on the bottom of your screen if there is a warning currently in your part of the state. And you can see what's happening as far as radar. We'll come up, show you a little bit closer what is happening from Kansas City to Wichita to Dodge City. Here comes the rain moving on northbound. Farther south, we still have some big rains in northwestern Oklahoma and extreme northern Texas. This is what has happened overnight around Gage, and currently for northern Texas, New Mexico, and Kansas, flood watches are now in effect.
Tropical weather systems are affected by so many variables.
We constantly monitor the situation.
If someone is safer by watching the Weather Channel, that's what it's all about.
programs, $27. 5 hot dogs, 6 pennants, $45. 1 big puffy hand, $6. Their first big league ball game, priceless. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard, the card at the heart of Major League Baseball.
I'm Arthur Fromer, the travel writer, and I am filming this report on October 4, 1998 in San Juan. I have toured the major resort hotels, and most are in...
Good morning and happy Halloween. It's time now for Storm Watch. One of the big weather stories today continues to be some very heavy rain and flooding that continues to pound the southern plain states. And we'll have more information regarding that developing weather story coming up in just a moment. Right now, though, let's talk about the tropics. And our tropical update begins with Mitch. Mitch has been a very resilient system. Right now, though, it has been downgraded to a tropical depression, but it's still kind of hanging tough across Central America and still causing some very heavy amounts of rain. Believe it or not, we've had some reports from Honduras of over 2 feet worth of rainfall and still some soaking rains continuing across Central America. So again, that's the big story as far as the tropics are concerned. Here's the latest information that we have on Tropical Depression Mitch. It is still packing winds of 35 miles per hour and slowly drifting off towards the west. Now, what we think is going to be happening is that there is a possibility that Mitch may totally dissipate over land. Another possible scenario, though, could take Mitch back over the open waters heading out towards the Pacific. Although most of the forecast models are in somewhat agreement that it's likely that this system may eventually start to turn more towards the north, heading perhaps more towards the northwest in the next 48 to 72 hours or so. So that's something that we'll be watching for. At any rate, though, Mitch continues to slowly move, and as it does, it continues to dump some very heavy flooding downpours. Hardest hit so far today has been southern sections of Honduras through Guatemala, El Salvador, and likewise Nicaragua, still getting pounded by very heavy rain. At least around coastal sections of Honduras, though, things have been improving after being swamped the last couple of days. And those tropical storm warnings that we had earlier, those have now dissipated. Those are now gone. But we still have small craft advisories in effect for these coastal regions. So again, mariners, be really careful. And of course, if you have any family or friends who live in Central America, keep it tuned to the Weather Channel because we'll make sure to keep you posted with the very latest information regarding Tropical Depression Mitch. As we head stateside, boy, do we have some headaches on this Halloween. We have a chance for some very nasty conditions across New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma. Now, yesterday we did have some reports of severe weather that broke out. Even a few tornadoes from the eastern plains of New Mexico back towards the Texas Panhandle. And because the atmosphere is remaining fairly unstable, there's a good likelihood that we'll continue to see some very strong thunderstorms breaking out in the same region. And the reason for that is a very intense low-pressure system over New Mexico. It will slowly be drifting off towards the east-northeast today, spreading a band of heavy showers and storms. Soaking rains already across the southern plain states as some locales have picked up a whopping 6 inches of rain. And the rain continues to come down non-stop, just Mother Nature's waterworks here. The rain around Dodge City, Kansas, heavy rain over towards Wichita, Kansas, and then we're seeing some steady rains too over towards Kansas City. And of course, for those of you doing some traveling today, maybe heading off to the shopping malls or running some errands, really be careful because you will encounter some ponding on the roads and some hydroplaning. More flooding problems too as we head down towards the Texas Panhandle. Here we've had some embedded thunderstorms, a lot of moisture too just to the west of Oklahoma City. But still so far for Oklahoma City and for Dallas, you really haven't had much in the way of rainfall. But we do think that situation will be changing by tonight as there could be some thunderstorms rolling in by later this evening. So watch out for that, especially for trick-or-treaters. It's going to be a slow go across the southern plain states. How much rain have we had? Well, in some places we've had nearly 5 to 6 inches of rain. Gage, Oklahoma has been especially hard hit, 4.4 inches of rain since yesterday. Now again, we've had so much rainfall that the ground is very, very saturated, and that could lead to some serious flooding. So numerous flash flood watches and warnings remain in effect for portions of Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and eastern New Mexico. As we progress through the afternoon, the rain continues to pick up in earnest for the southern plain states. Elsewhere, though, we have some other problems. Another storm system coming on board across the Pacific Northwest. And for New England, you're still seeing a raw, blustery, windy day. A very stubborn low-pressure system over Nova Scotia is simply not budging, and there, too, the weather will stay kind of messy and unsettled throughout tonight. Now, of course, we'll have more information regarding the storm system across the plain states, and we'll update the flooding problems, too, coming up in just a moment. Unexpected weather can really mess up your day, and preparing people for it is our business. Business is good.
This season, bring a familiar color into your garden. The Fiskars Power Gear Pruner, unlike any pruner you've ever seen. A revolutionary new gear design dramatically reduces cutting effort through a rotating handle that evenly distributes the cutting force to a precision, stay-sharp blade. The Power Gear Pruner, guaranteed for life. Fiskars, a familiar name, geared for the garden.
I notice you're sitting a little funny.
Well, my wallet's pretty thick. I carry a lot of credit cards.
Wow, why so many?
Well, this one's for work, this one's for emergencies. It's got a really high limit. And all the others, I was pre-approved for, so I figured, why not?
Replace all those cards with the Bank One Platinum Visa. Transfer the balances of those cards.
Thanks for joining us for Storm Watch here on the Weather Channel. We are keeping our eye on an area in West Texas where there's the potential for some severe thunderstorms. In fact, there have been some earlier in the day. Good news at this moment, no warnings in effect, but there is a watch, and we'll check that out for you and show you where the areas are affected in just a moment. But first off, we take a look at the tropics and the latest on Mitch, which is now a tropical depression. Yesterday at this time, as you probably remember, it was Tropical Storm Mitch and had lingered for quite a long time as a tropical storm, even though the center had been inland. But in the 9 a.m. advisory this morning, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, coming out of the National Hurricane Center, Mitch was downgraded to a tropical depression. Here's the 3 p.m. information, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Maximum sustained winds associated with this tropical depression, still about 35 miles per hour. As had been expected, there has been little change in the strength during the day, and that's likely to continue over the next 10 to 12 hours. Moving toward the west at about 12 miles per hour, it has picked up speed a little bit. Earlier it was moving along at about 7 miles per hour, so an increase in forward speed. Indications are that it will continue for a short time longer toward the west, and then probably begin to turn more toward the west-northwest. That would take the depression along the spine of the mountainous terrain through Central America, and consequently moving over the mountain areas would further the weakening. Central pressure 1,001 millibars, and as of 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, the poorly defined center of Tropical Depression Mitch was located about 75 miles west-southwest of Santa Rosa de Copan in Honduras. And if you're plotting that on a map of the tropics, that would be latitude 14.5 north, longitude 89.9 west. Mitch continues to be a big rainmaker, even though the winds are down to 35 miles per hour. It continues to produce torrential rains in areas where we're really not getting complete reports as to how much rain has fallen. But indications are there may have been in some areas of Honduras and Nicaragua and the mountainous terrain as much as 4 feet of rain. And of course that continues to pose serious life-threatening problems with mudslides and flash flooding. This satellite view shows not only Tropical Depression Mitch here, but it shows how quiet the tropical Atlantic is. And we look toward the Pacific, the waters of the eastern Pacific, and we find nothing here of any suspicious nature, nothing looking like it's going to get organized. Of course, we are coming toward the end of the hurricane season, and we would expect things to start quieting down. Well, it hasn't been very quiet in West Texas today, with Low pressure at the surface here pushing into the Texas Panhandle, and also an upper level low over the southwestern portion of the U.S., combining forces to produce a lot of lift for warm, moist, unstable air coming up from the Gulf of Mexico. And that has brought the potential for strong to severe thunderstorms through this area, as you see, from southeast New Mexico into west Texas on up into southwestern Missouri. Within this broad area where there could be strong to severe thunderstorms, there is a particular area where the Storm Prediction Center has determined that conditions are favorable for severe thunderstorms, capable of producing hail up to 2 inches in diameter, damaging wind gusts up to 80 miles per hour, and dangerous lightning as well. Dawson County, one of the most recent counties in northwest Texas to be under a severe thunderstorm warning. That has since expired. At this time, no warnings, but certainly be very cautious if you are in West Texas. The weather could be very rapidly changing where you are, and be prepared to take shelter. A lot of rain falling, and in particular it's been heavy across portions of the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles into Kansas, Gage, Oklahoma. Storm total from this present storm through 3 p.m. this afternoon, better than 5 3/4 inches of rain. At Wichita, Kansas, you've topped 4 inches. Medicine Lodge, Kansas, 3.5 inches. And the list continues to grow as the rain continues to fall. Meanwhile, back in the cold part of this storm, snow falling in the Colorado Rockies and the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. And it looks like the amounts will not be great, maybe up to 6 inches of snow in the highest elevations, and that is for now above about 8,000 feet, although we have seen some moderate snow falling around Las Vegas, New Mexico, and Las Vegas, New Mexico is a little bit below 7,000 feet in elevation. Watch out for flash flooding from east central New Mexico all the way up into northwestern Missouri as the rain continues, as you can see here. Other area of rain on the map is primarily the Pacific Northwest, and most of that is spotty around Seattle and Portland, but you do get into more widespread rain as you look down toward Arcata and Crescent City, California. Stay with us for Weather Center coming up right after your local forecast.
It's blustery in Boston, sunny and spooky in the southeast. Find out if your Halloween weather will be bone-chilling or beautiful. Watch Weather Center after your local forecast.
Mary, we got another notice today that our Medicare supplement premiums are going up again.
Oh, that's a big increase. What are we going to do?
Have you recently experienced a dramatic increase in your Medicare supplement premiums? By calling this toll-free number, you can receive a free, no-obligation Medicare supplement premium comparison from United American Insurance Company. You could be saving money each and every month. Plus, you'll receive this valuable guide to health insurance for people with Medicare, absolutely free.
Boy, am I glad we made that call to United American.
This free guide really answers a lot of our Medicare supplement questions.
With United American's Medicare supplement coverage, we now have lower monthly premiums, and all our claims are filed automatically.
And changing our coverage to United American was really easy.
To receive your free Medicare...
Thanks for joining us here at the Weather Channel. I'm Christina Abernathy. We've got some rainy and some stormy weather to tell you about in parts of Texas. We'll have more on that coming up in just a moment. But first, it's time for our tropical update. Let's take a look at the latest on what's going on out there, including the latest on Mitch. The big picture shows things are really pretty quiet, except for Mitch. We don't see much going on in the Gulf of Mexico. Certainly not a lot going on in the Atlantic, but we are watching Mitch here in Central America. You can see the clouds associated with the depression and plenty of rain here, and the eventual fate of Mitch, still some question marks. We'll talk more about that in a moment. First, the latest coordinates have Tropical Depression Mitch centered at 14.6 north, 90.5 west. That puts the center near Guatemala. The winds 35 miles per hour, moving to the west at 9 miles per hour, and the pressure 1,002 millibars. Well, here's a closer view of Mitch, and no doubt seeing some windy conditions here and probably some pretty good amounts of rain for some areas. What we've got is a rather rugged terrain in this area, so that's certainly unfavorable for Mitch to maintain its strength or strengthen, while aloft we see high pressure aloft, and that's favorable for tropical development. So a couple of things going on here at sort of cross purposes. So again, still uncertain as to whether or not the mountains are going to have much of an impact, the terrain is going to have much of an impact, and the exact track of Mitch is still uncertain at this point too. We'll keep you posted and let you know the goings on and as it becomes a little clearer. But as for right now, what we can tell you is that it continues to drop heavy rains in these areas and probably getting some areas maybe with some windy conditions as well. Well, that's the latest on the tropics, the latest on Tropical Depression Mitch. As we head a little closer to home, we've got some rather active weather to talk about here too. Not so much in the eastern U.S., where things are really pretty quiet here. From the southeast on up the east coast, where it's a little more active, is here through Texas and into Missouri, where we've got rain and also some storms, especially here to the south. And then in the northwest, with another front moving in, that's meant rain for you in Washington and Oregon and into northern and central California. Some of the higher elevations getting some snow. You can see it on the big picture there. There's our front. Here's our wet weather to the south. Also notice some snow in the Colorado Rockies. But all of this wet weather here out ahead of this warm front, some of the rain's been rather heavy, and for that reason we have flood watches in effect. They extend from the panhandle of Texas all the way into northwestern Missouri. Be careful if you're going to be out and about, and don't drive your car through any areas where water covers the roads. Just to give you an idea of some of those totals, take a look at Gage, Oklahoma. Over 6 inches of rain here, almost 6 inches of rain in Wichita, Kansas, Amarillo, Texas, over 3.5 inches there. So we've got a lot of wet weather, and unfortunately also the potential for severe weather. A severe thunderstorm watch is in effect for parts of Texas, so look out for those strong damaging winds, maybe some hail, and of course the heavy amounts of rain that you've already seen in a lot of areas. We've got the wet weather, leading edge of this, storminess. Watch out San Angelo, watch out Abilene. Those are some of the areas that are under the gun right now. You can see some pretty nasty looking storms here, and the northern extent of that and on into northern Texas. Abilene, watch out, and it extends on into Oklahoma and into Kansas, where you've seen some heavy amounts of rain, and remember that potential for flooding does exist. Off to the west we go, getting some rain, but also getting some snow here, and we think the highest elevations here could pick up 1/2 foot or more in southern Colorado, and we could pick up a few inches of snow also in the Cascades of Washington and Oregon. Well, here's a sneak peek at what's in store for your Sunday morning. More rain in some of the same areas. Also look out for some snow. We'll have more details on Weather Center. Stay with us.
A hot Halloween in the south, blustery and bone-chilling in Boston, and dark and stormy in the central U.S. Find out what's lurking in your area. Watch Weather Center next.
As you get closer, your eyes get wider, your heart beats faster, your determination grows strong. This is not going to beat you. Oh, it's loud, and it's dirty, and yeah, it's big. But so are your plans. Hey, John boy, you ain't in Kansas anymore. From here on in, every day's going to be a test.